the valley low. Gotta organize, yeah. From the mountain high to the valley low. Gotta organize, no telling on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. No telling on the mountain, gotta let our people know. One more time. From the mountain high to the valley low. Gotta organize, yeah. From the mountain high to the valley low. Gotta organize, yeah. From the mountain high to the valley low. Gotta organize, yeah. From the mountain high to the valley low. Gotta organize, so go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. God, tell it on the mountain. Gotta let our people know. Gotta let our people know. Gotta let our people know.
Welcome, everyone, to Freedom Church of the Poor. It's 6 p.m. Sunday evening here on the East Coast. My name is Adam, and we welcome you all to this community of care and resistance tonight. Whether you're joining here in the Zoom or online or checking with us later during the week, so grateful you could be here with us. This is the second Sunday of Advent. And in this season, we're tragically reminded again of the monstrous times that we live in, witnessing new waves of hatred and racism toward our neighbors, and continued call for violence and war and domination, division, and hatred of the other as a way of establishing peace and prosperity in our world. The Christian story and tradition of Advent, of course, rejects this way, which at the time of the origin of the Advent story, that way was represented by the cruelty and violence and domination of the Roman Empire. And those who resisted believed in and were seeing signs of something new breaking through. Today, new way struggles to be born amidst and through our own struggle against the monsters of our world, genocide, poverty, war, white supremacy, and environmental destruction, to name a few. And tonight, as we gather as a community, let us be reminded of the beautiful hope that this tradition of Advent truly holds. A hope that is not meek or quiet, or a hope that hopes for life after death, nor is it the hope of the triumphant, idolatrous, powerful who seek to dominate and control life and death. It is a hope that is different. It's a gritty hope, beautiful and painful, full of sorrow and yearning. Is the hope of the poor, of the least of these, which we know is the most of these. And I just want to get us started with a quote from one of our co-founders of the Freedom Church of the Poor, Aaron Scott, who had this beautiful phrase or way of describing that hope of the poor, the dispossessed. This is from Aaron Scott's recent book. Something you got to understand about poor people's organizing is that it's spiritual. Death stalks constantly. We as poor people are in touch with our mortality. We as poor people are forced to see the stark truth behind so many hypocrisies propping up this society. We as poor people survive on the joyful grit and militant tenderness that keeps us finding beauty, laughter, and lifelines amid the wreckage of daily apocalypses. Being spiritual doesn't mean poor people trust religious institutions or even God. Spirituality is not just an idea or a theory, nor is spirituality a warm, comforting feeling. Spirituality is your hungry, grieving, dope-sick body and mind deciding to get up and live another day. Faith is deciding that you deserve life when the powers and principality of this world tell you every fucking second of every day that you do not. Religion is a moral code, a moral habit that sits deeper in you than all your other habits. And by this definition of it, a lot of poor folk put nice, respectable looking church people to shame. Hope is not optimism. Hope is something we have to go out and build in concrete and material ways. Hope is food. Hope is sanctuary. Hope is Narcan. Hope for poor people is inseparable from life and inseparable from power. This is from Bring Back Your People, 10 Ways Regular Folks Can Put a Dent in White Christian Nationalism. Thank you, Aaron, for those powerful words, and hope everybody can check out your book if they haven't already. All right. So we're going to get started like we like to at Freedom Church with the reading of our mission statement. Pull that up real quick. All right, here we go. Tammy?
Yes, thank you. The Freedom Church of the Poor is a spiritual and political home for movement leaders. We believe in the fundamental dignity and value of all life, and in a world of abundance where all can thrive. We gather as a community of faith to support and care for each other. We commit to realizing the abundant world God promises by identifying, developing, and uniting leaders who will build a movement to end poverty led by the poor. In this community, and through our commitment to this struggle, we also seek to rediscover and share a vision and practice of religion that is rooted in truth, justice, and love.
Thank you, Tammy. And as I mentioned, we're in the season of Advent, what we call around here Advent of a Revolution. And to say a bit more about that, we've invited Minister Matt. Please, Matt.
Hey everyone, Advent of a Revolution. Social movements and revolution are built in stages. We see this throughout the Israelites' struggle for liberation and in life in the ministry of Jesus as he built a movement of the poor against the empire of Rome. Texts that exemplify the stages of building a social movement characterize our season of the Advent of Revolution, especially the calls of the prophets, both biblical and contemporary, who call for radical revolutionary values. This season is part of the Winter Offensive, National Union of the Homeless.
Thanks, Matt. And this is this before we get started with the scripture and hear for some of the powerful leaders that are here tonight to offer some reflection. We wanted to ground ourselves in the words of a revolutionary that was killed by the state on December 4th, Fred Hampton. We're also marking the assassination of John Brown, who was killed 2 days before that on December 2nd. Obviously many years apart, but wanted to share these words from Chairman Fred Hampton, who in this video that we'll share is talking about the importance of political education. And during the season of Advent, it's a helpful reminder of how important it is as we to learn with each other in this engaged way as we prepare ourselves to bring the new way of justice and freedom and love to our life and community in these times. So I'm going to share this now.
you basically knowing my ideology, and basically you knowing me knowing yours, you can support some of our programs. Is that what you're saying?
Why not?
And you believe in programs like the Breakfast for Children program and free health clinics? Right on, brothers?
We believe they're good things.
Uh-huh.
As a focal point to organize their mothers and fathers.
Uh-huh.
Peace.
Mm-hmm. There's no educational program here?
That's come out of the social action thing. You know, you set that up, bro. I mean, we can't put everything on one piece of paper.
What about this bank?
Credit union?
Mm-hmm.
Credit union. Credit union, my brother. Is a If bank. you're hip, are you hip to credit unions? It is a bank.
Yeah, you go and borrow money?
Yeah, it's a bank. It's a bank. Owned by the people, run for the people, and by the people.
What will money be given out to people for?
Well, the people would decide that. You want to buy, you know, whatever, you know, the people in the community decide. You need some living room furniture, maybe? You need a car, maybe?
See, the thing is with me, you dig, I need to know some more about it. I wish you had some more literature about the educational thing here. Because, you dig, as far as we're concerned in the struggle, when we look at struggle, is that this depends on the educational thing, you dig. Because
this depends on the education. Well, the whole thing.
No, but in the end, this does. You can form this with no education. You can form this.
No, not the way we're talking about forming it. You know, right. We're talking about forming it right. You know, it's not on the paper. We didn't write it on the paper.
Form it right with no education.
No.
Let me give you an example. Jomo Kenyatta formed the excellent revolution with no education. And on the end thing, Jomo told the motherfucker, said, well, you know, you can educate hate the enemy, but I'm your brother. I'll help you lead the revolution. Now I'm gonna oppress you. Another example, Papa Doc in Haiti. Papa Doc in Haiti hated everything white. Man, you couldn't put this white paper in front of Papa Doc's face. But he moved all the white people out and he took over and be oppressed. He did, because of no education. And the people that had been educated, they just said that we don't hate the motherfucker white people, we hate the oppressor, whether he be white, black, brown, or yellow. So we got to know the educational program to find out what is going to be in the finale. A lot of people, Jomo Kenyatta is called not a never a revolutionary, but an ex-revolutionary. So it's Papa Doc. They brought on a successful revolution. That thing in the Miles was a bitch. Bantu freedom fighters, all that kind of action. What we're saying is the end. But you don't judge Castro now. You can't do it. Nobody in this room could judge whether Castro's going to be a revolutionary or not. You know what I mean? We're talking about things, you know what I mean, with China, the People's Republic, and even at the stage they're in now, talking about even going on further into a communistic state. That's what we're talking about. Those are revolutionary. So we got to understand here the educational program that you have to be able to figure out whether it will go on the right lines where the people will end up in a situation where they can be able to really control themselves. You understand what I'm saying? With no education, the people take this local foundation and start stealing money because they won't be really educated to why it's the people's thing anyway. You understand what I'm saying? With no education, you have neo-colonialism instead of colonialism, like you got in Africa 9, like you got in Haiti. So what we're talking about is there has to be an educational program. That's very important. As a matter of fact, we are so important for us that a person has to go through 6 weeks of our political education before he can consider himself a member of the party, able to even run down ideology for the party. Why? Because if they don't have an education, then they're nowhere. You dig what I'm saying? They're nowhere because they don't even know why they're doing what they're doing. You might get people caught up in the emotionalist movement. You understand me? You might get them caught up in because they're poor and they want something. And then if they're not educated, they want more. And before you know it, they'll be capitalists. And before you know it, we have Negro imperialists.
Thank you so much, Adam, for sharing that. And just once again, just wanting, as we're in the season of Advent and thinking about how we prepare ourselves, just the role of political education. Now we're going to get into the scripture, and I would like to invite up my brother Elom of Black Christians for Palestine. But first, let's read the scripture. We're reading from Isaiah 11, 6-9. The wolf shall live with the lamb, the leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion will feed together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat on straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put its hand in the adder's den. They will not hurt or destroy on my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. And next up
is Elom Tetty-Tamaklo from Black Christians for Palestine, which is one of our co-sponsoring organizations. Thank you so much, Elom, for joining us.
Thank you, friends. It's absolutely wonderful to be with you all tonight. Apologies that I'm in a car in an awkward situation on the road, and I just had to be with you all by all means. So thank you so much for having us, and what a gift it is to be in beloved community tonight. I know there's a lot going on in our world. There's a lot going on in our hearts. But I'm so grateful that we're all taking the time to be here and to sit virtually with each other. You know, the days are getting shorter and darkness lingers all around us, physically and metaphorically. And as someone who grew up around the equator, I grew up in Ghana, West Africa, changing seasons and light patterns are somewhat foreign to me. You know, I was used to regularity and consistency, so this part of the year always unsettles me. And I mean, what am I supposed to do with a dark sky at 4 p.m. in rainy Boston? It's tough, I must say, you know, but we're managing. But in many ways, Advent feels similar. Our regular cadence has changed, and now we're in a period of darkness, spiritual darkness, as it were. We're in a period of contemplation, of sorrow, and for some, we're in a period of despair. And in the midst of all this, we are told to practice the spiritual art of hope, of patience, of waiting, and looking for a certain redemption of our bodies, of our souls, and even of our world. But I'm sure you'd agree with me that waiting is never fun. And you know, as someone who hates waiting, I'm constantly the last to always get on my flights. They are constantly screaming my name in the airports because I just can't get to the airport early to wait. I absolutely hate waiting. So it's so difficult when I'm in this season of Advent and we're told to practice the spiritual discipline of waiting. But what Advent does to us and for us is that it is asking us in many ways to wait. And the question I've always struggled with, friends, is what are we waiting for? So while the main message of Advent is obviously waiting for the Messiah, Jesus, the Lord, who embodies much more than a baby who came into the world in swaddling clothes, we are waiting on the personification of justice, of freedom, of liberation, and the plethora of the things that our hearts are aiming for. And in this moment where our shared planet crumbles under the weight of human greed and exploitation, our neighbors are being snatched up by ICE, and money for jobs and education is being used to fund wars and genocide, it feels more relevant than ever, the waiting and the anticipation of a new world. So Isaiah, in one of his most fascinating and honestly perplexing prophecies I've heard, he's saying that the wolf will dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with a young goat. And he goes on and even says that a child would put their hand in the hole of a serpent, but no one shall be hurt. And honestly, the first time I stumbled across this prophecy, I was shocked. I was like, Isaiah, I know that you've said a bunch of different things, some of them more outlandish than others, but this takes the crown. What does it mean that suddenly we are all friends and we're holding hands and singing Kumbaya? Historical enemies are suddenly eating from the same bowl. What does it mean? And what does it mean particularly that danger is almost non-existent? And for someone like me who has grown up with the weight of the state constantly against them as a black man in America, I could not just imagine what it means for power to be rethought of and rebalanced. But Isaiah is pointing us to a different future. And while this might seem whimsical in certain ways, and I still think it's kind of tough to swallow this pill that Isaiah is presenting, I believe there is some ancient wisdom to this. And Isaiah, under the inspiration of the Spirit, is pointing us to a future where power relations are balanced and violence does not have the final say. And the real question that I grapple with tonight is, what does it take for us to get there? Because if we don't know what it takes for us to get there, all this is but a dream. And I believe that we have a glimpse of the answer in the waiting. You see, the waiting that Advent requires of us demands that we engage the moral imagination in the creation of these new worlds. It requires that we get into our communities and do the work of organizing until we see change, no matter how incremental. The waiting of Advent, my friend, is not a passive, aimless twiddling of our thumbs, as some would suggest, but rather is a determined and an active spiritual discipline that is fighting for the rights over the future. The waiting of Advent is asking that who will have the final say about war and conflict. The waiting of Advent is asking that who will feed the hungry child in our streets. The waiting of Advent is asking that will there be a moment that none of us will die of preventable illnesses. The waiting of Advent is asking that when will they stop killing our prophets and our revolutionaries? Because, my friends, today I hear the voices of Chairman Fred screaming for freedom and liberation that has still not been realized. I hear the voice of Lumumba from the Congo asking that shall another African nation be impoverished by the United States and other powers? I hear the voices of those who have been taken away by ICE. I hear the voices of Black women who are more likely to die in childbirth than their counterparts. These are the voices of Advent. When will peace abound? And my friends, this is the battle that we are involved in as we wait. And as we wait, it's imperative that we do not lose hope and we do not give in to despair. Because the glorious thing about this wait that we're involved in is that Isaiah, who was prophesying into the future, assures us that the end is determined. That as sure as the sun rises and the waves of the sea return back, empire will never have the last word. That as sure as the sun rises, freedom and liberation will come. That as sure as the sun rises, we will enter a world where we will all be free. As sure as the sun rises, I hear the sound of freedom coming. So friends, in this moment, there might be confusion. There is chaos. There is a shadow of deep disappointment that rests upon our hearts, that rests upon the nation, and that rests upon the world. I have to admit, and there is fear, real, tangible fear for our lives and the lives of our siblings. And yet, the Spirit is saying, we ought to wait actively. We ought to hold on to the promise of a future that is free. We ought to watch. We ought to be ready. We ought to refuse to give in to despair, even when it looks like we've lost at times. Even when they roll back our rights, cut our SNAP benefits, kill those who speak up. We have to refuse fear because we are assured that violence will never have the final word, and all empires will fall, and indeed we shall see the glory of the Lord. And even right now, I see the glory of the Lord rising upon us. I see a future where everyone is free, and I see true liberation. Thank you, friends. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Elom. Getting a lot of love from folks in the chat there. That was it really brought the spirit. Thank you for that rousing word. So good. And I love this notion of waiting as a spiritual practice. I've never considered that. It's deep. Thank you so much. And now we're going to invite our next guest speaker tonight, Guadalupe De la Cruz. So blessed to have you here, Lupe. Lupe was born and raised in a working class family, farm worker family in South Florida. She's co-founder of Seeds of Resistance, a program that integrates art and trauma healing work to address the needs of migrant youth. And she also serves as the Florida director of the American Friends Service Committee, where she helps build the power of refugees and immigrants in South Florida. And tonight, I think Guadalupe is here to also represent the Free Families campaign, which she'll say more about, and we'll lift up again in the call to action. So thanks again, Lupe. I'll pass to you.
Thank you. Good evening. Buenas. Like Adam said, my name is Guadalupe, she, her, ella. I'm very happy to be part of this Freedom School. I've been part of these before in the past, so it's just really exciting to be in this space again and see Sierra and Adam, who I haven't seen in such a while. And it's a hard act to follow after the beautiful and strong words that Elom has just shared with us. But I was invited here to talk a little bit about what's happening in South Florida, specifically around Alligator Alcatraz. I want to begin with saying that our Florida program within AFSC has been focused on advocating for immigrant and undocumented rights for the last couple of years. And the Alligator Alcatraz is one of the many struggles and fights that we have to shut down these detention facilities that harm our communities. And this is just one facility of the many in South Florida that are causing harm to the community that I serve. And I'll just preface by saying, you know, this didn't just start overnight. I know a lot of people have heard about Alligator Alcatraz. Many people have read many articles, and unfortunately, Florida has been all over the media, and not for the good things, because Florida is one of the most anti-immigrant states in the United States. But I'll start with saying that Alligator Alcatraz, though it was built in 8 days, the infrastructure for it started happening around 2018. And I say this because that's the time where our governor, Ron DeSantis, was elected, and his campaign was specifically focused on creating an anti-immigrant sentiment in the state. And as we move forward into 2020, we see the election of Biden. And, you know, during that presidential election, Republicans and really made immigration a wedge issue in our community. And we begin to see a lot of immigration policy and implementation being created because it had been taken up as such an important topic during those elections. Then in 2022, during the midterm elections, Republicans win, and they send a strong message to Florida, again, using immigrants and undocumented communities to further build their platform. And then we see in 2023, when Ron DeSantis declares a state of emergency and starts to redirect a lot of funding, especially after we had seen such an increase of Haitian immigrants fleeing to the US, and starts to really go heavy on bringing federal funds to continue to militarize our coast, our border, and continue to build on deporting and deterring immigrants from calling Florida their home. And then in 2024, throughout to 2025 of this year, we start to see an increase of 287G agreements, which is basically, for folks who may not know, it is this relationship, a strengthening of the relationship between ICE and police police officers in the state of Florida. And then we start to see an increase of federal funding going into detention facilities, and especially like the one in Everglades. Alligator Alcatraz, the whole vision was definitely to create an infrastructure that would detain and deport immigrants and undocumented individuals in such a speedy manner. It was built in 8 days, and it was built in the middle of the swamplands of Florida. And the justification of the build was, again, the need to attack and deport immigrants in the state of Florida. And then I want to also emphasize that this location was specifically chosen because it was in the middle of nowhere, and it also created a platform for zero accountability, where people, decision makers and policyholders, didn't really have to give explanation of what was happening. The intention behind creating Alligator Alcatraz was definitely one to, again, remove individuals in a speedy manner, but also to keep it under the radar. And then we started to see an increase of funding going into it. And what we started seeing was that federal funding, specifically FEMA funding, was being cut. And for folks who know, the state of Florida is constantly being threatened by natural disasters such as storms and hurricanes. So you can imagine the devastation of knowing that FEMA funds would be redirected. And it's not just a couple $1,000s. We were talking about $450 million a year of taxpayers that was going to be used to continue to create this and run this Alligator Alcatraz. Again, people have seen the pictures, and it has been blasted all over media how horrible the conditions in Alligator Alcatraz have been. Again, it's in the middle of a swamp. We are constantly under heat waves, and so that was another condition that people were having to navigate. An increase of bugs, mosquitoes that were also creating very hostile living conditions for individuals. There was a over flooding that was constantly coming into the facility. And again, I just want to say that this was not a building. This was something that was created overnight, and these were basically cages that people were living in. And it's important for people to know what's happening in these detention facilities, not just because the money that's being invested into it, but because these detention facilities are being created to specifically strip the humanity of community. We know that the most affected in these the most impacted and the most affected community members are always going to be people of color, people who are poor, and people who do not have access to a lot of the resources in our community to help them get out of these detention facilities. I think another thing that's important to mention here is that this detention facility, though during the middle of the year, we had a victory to shut down the facility, the governor appealed his case to continue to run and operate the facility and continue to open up the facility and continue to detain and deport individuals from Alligator Alcatraz. And also, this was all happening when our government had its shutdown, one of the longest shutdowns that we had in the US. And knowing that there were so many families that were being affected, that were losing their SNAP benefits, that were losing their health cares, we saw that these detention facilities were still being run when we knew that the money that was being invested in these facilities could very well go to community who needed it the most. And so I also just want to redirect, myself into another point of conversation, and I know that this is still happening, like our people are still being detained, are still being deported. I think right now, some of the scripture that you all are really reflecting and reading is very important, because we are living in a world where there are so many monsters, and there's so many monsters being created and made, and we are easily thinking that the monsters are these large corporations, you know, that benefit from these detention facilities, that benefit from people being detained, from people being arrested, and from people being deported. But, you know, outside of these corporations, there are other monsters, and those monsters are the people who choose to stay silent, who choose not to get up and fight for others, and choose not to fight for their own rights. And something that really struck me as I was reading your lectures, your scriptures that y'all are reflecting on, is that you all need to challenge yourself. It's not just about being born in the midst of monsters living around us or during a time of monsters, but how do you wake up and stay true to your values and faith? Because our current political environment is going to make a monster out of anybody, and can very well make a monster out of you. And again, you know, I said a monster can be created out of these current conditions. And how are you not becoming a monster? How are you choosing to live into your values, into your faith? And how do you continue to raise your voice and allow others to raise their voice too? How do you continue to look for justice and seek justice and fight for justice without becoming a monster yourself? And you know, we currently have the perfect conditions to create a monster. And I continue to repeat that because we are all responsible for everyone. You know, we, regardless of our beliefs and our political backgrounds or our religions, we are the ones that are responsible for our communities. We hold each other. And if one person is not free, that means that we are all not free. And so we very well hold the responsibility to continue to support and uplift our community members. And it's very important for people to understand that right now there are so many people who are not free. And there are so many people like you all here who are choosing to be here on a Sunday and educate yourself and really rethink and reimagine what a life would look like when everybody is free. And so that in itself is very commendable. It's very uplifting to know that there are people who are willing to challenge what is currently happening to our community and to our society. And yeah, I know Adams is going to talk about free families a little bit later on in the agenda, but you know, this campaign, this body of work is happening and is being created through the resistance that people are having amidst all of the challenges that they're facing, through the tension, through family separation, through no access to food, through no access to housing. People are still choosing to believe that there is a better world, and still choosing to come together in community and stand together and uplift each other and support one another, because we are stepping away from the traditional organizing of, you know, just having numbers. You know, we're choosing to build community. We're choosing to integrate our beliefs, our cultural backgrounds, our music, our songs, our stories, because right now we're in such a horrible and scary moment where people who were unafraid at one point are now afraid, and we're being pushed back into shadows. We're being pushed back into the darkness. And and you know, we're being forced to be invisible again. And it is so sad to know that there are so many people right now afraid to fight for their rights right now. And so how do we again go back to keeping ourselves accountable and responsible for our community, and how some people are putting their bodies on the line and some people are actually, you know, out there talking, um, and and connecting with the community and telling them that, you know, regardless of what's happening, you're still human. And how do we bring that humanity back into our organizing? and to our teachings. And so that's what Free Families is really about. It's amidst all of the horror that is happening in our community, we are choosing to continue to step up and be part of real changes in our community by being together. Because right now, policy and our political environment are wanting us to be divided, are going to continue to want us to be working in silos. And so this is such a pivotal moment for us to continue to build community, to continue to resist and come together. Because if one person is not free, that means that we are not all free. And so we are fighting for freedom, not just for ourselves, but for everybody else. And I know I'm probably at time. So I appreciate, again, just being here and be able to share a little bit of what we're up against in South Florida. And again, that's one detention facility out of the many detention facilities that are in South Florida, that are in the South, that we're hoping to shut down, because we were able to shut down one detention facility here in South Florida. And we know that we can continue to do that, not just here, but all across the country. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Lupe. That's yeah, I mean, just for taking us through that history of Florida and just the immigration policy in this country, and just to help us better understand that, which, I mean, these things are so clearly not about safety and protecting people, but are just deeply racist and dehumanizing, and ways to stoke fear and vision, and ultimately make folks richer, like you said, or drive us further into this kind of authoritarian fascist world. And also thank you for calling us in to remember how we have to take action and be on guard, and not become that which we're fighting, and what is oppressing us. So really grateful for Free Families, and yeah, this model of organizing that's rooted in community and song and spiritual life. And we'll say more about how to connect with that at the end. But again, thank you for your work and your courage and your sincerity, Lupe, and yeah, and for being here with us tonight. So we'll now move to our next speaker, Minister Tammy Rosing, who is a minister with the Freedom Church of the Poor and also a leader with the Lancaster Union of the Homeless, is going to share a bit about an upcoming event as part of the Winter Offensive. Yeah, National Union of the Homeless is one of our co-sponsors here this season. So Tammy, I'll pass to you.
Thanks, Adam. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're good.
Cool. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a part of the Lancaster County, Pennsylvania chapter of the National Union of the Homeless. I also help coordinate the the media and communications press work stuff for the union, and the minister with the Free Church of the Poor. So as a part of our national annual Winter Offensive organizing drive that goes from around Thanksgiving to MLK Day, one of the key dates is December 10th. It's recognized, as Human Rights Day, and inspired. So this will be our second annual. Last year, it just, as we were all talking about, right? Like how the conditions are the way they are, and they're just going to keep getting worse, honestly, like for a significant time period because of the policy changes. And the policy violence perpetrated by those in power. And last year, we held the first annual People's Hearing on December 10th. And we chose a People's Hearing because we wanted to put the system and those in power on trial. They are constantly creating the conditions that they then criminalize us for and punish us for. And so this is our way to basically be on the offensive and put them on trial. They are guilty of denying our human rights. And so that's why it takes place on December 10th. And so this Wednesday, it's virtual. It'll be live. You can also register to join us on Zoom. You'll hear testimonies from people from across the nation. You'll hear from folks from United Workers in Maryland, the Homeless Union Chapter folks in Chicago. You'll hear from Maureen from Welfare Rights. You'll also hear from a few folks in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, that'll be sharing testimony. Someone from Put People First PA and the Nonviolent Medicaid Army. And these testimonies are going to share plight, fight, insight. We're going to talk about the conditions around the front of struggle we're talking about. And we're going to talk about why this is the way it is. And we're going to talk about how we're fighting back. And so, yes, it's kind of done like in honor and in recognition of Human Rights Day, because that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for our human right to health, to housing, to food, the human right to freedom of migration. Like, it's a time to do that. I see them criminalizing us every day. And I think about when I look in my own community in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, in the south central region of the state, we are considered the Bible Belt of Pennsylvania. And right now, like, we're in a fight for a budget that is moral and just, to where our county commissioners have no problem spending upwards of $400 million on a new, larger prison, but will not guarantee just the 1.5 million that the federal government wants to now take away for these permanent housing programs that could lead to 155 people facing eviction come May. And they have one last meeting on December 16th, and then on Christmas Eve, December 24th, is the final vote for this unjust, immoral budget, led by people that are self-identifying, they say, followers of Christ. That's that distorted moral narrative that we talk about in our movement together. And so that is what we're fighting for in this Advent season. We are fighting for justice. We are fighting for that 155 people to continue to be housed. We are fighting for our right to food. I see like how in Colombia, a group of us are operating a food pantry and community meals, and looking to branch out and bring in the Freedom Church of the Poor Bible studies and services and gather together, because it's all encompassing. Folks need faith, they need community. These times are harsh right now. And the conditions, as I said, will continue to get worse. Recent reports say about 60% now, 60 are struggling to make ends meet. The poor and dispossessed, we are now the majority. And there's still a sector of people that could very rapidly become one of us. We have nothing to lose but our change. We can lead this nation to what life could truly be like, what I heard you guys share earlier. Think about what heaven on earth can be like. Think about what it means for all of us to be free. That's what we're fighting for. And that's what we're going to be bringing up during the People's Hearing on December 10th. And I hope y'all can join us for that. And for every event, activity, and action. And let's come together. Let's get into step. And let's make sure that we're doing it and following in the footsteps of people like Fred Hampton and Martin Luther King Jr. and all the other revolutionaries before us. Because we need to abolish poverty and all those interlocking injustices if we're all ever going to truly be free.
Amen. Minister Tammy, thank you for that powerful word that you brought tonight. Oh my gosh. Feeling that. And I want to move to the share more about the People's Hearing and all of these, so many calls to action we have tonight. But before that, important that we ground ourselves in a time of prayer, what we call the prayers of the people. So I'm going to pass it to Minister Matt to lead us through that. If you have any petitions, you can put them in the chat. But Matt, I'll pass to you.
Thank you, Adam. Let's take a moment in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all these gifts you've given us throughout these years. The trials that we go through at this time and these horrible sacred moments. Let us be brought to a new idea of a new human, of a new idea of a new humanity that we can all live in, where we're all free. And this idea of hope and joy can, run down and permeate every essence of all of us. Thank you. Sorry. We thank you for the gifts that you've given us today. And we thank you for the gifts that you've given us in the past. Fred Hampton, who police took his life, but he gave such a message that was so strong. And prayers for the families of the murdered of everyone that has been taken over by the government in this horrible system of death that is killing us 800 people a day in this nation. 800 people a day we are losing every day in this nation because of poverty. We're losing brothers, sisters, teachers, artists. John Brown taught us years ago that we need to fight for something that's more than ourselves. And that's what this season brings us at. And that's what I really want to bring into this prayer, is a season of hope. In a dark time, we can become so noble. In our darkest moments, we can look at life with love and joy and hope. In that darkest moment, we can light a candle and have that light permeate through us and bring light to others through our struggle, through our struggle, through sharing what we have, through sharing everything that we are with each other, breaking down all barriers, no matter who we are, what color we are, what we look like, where we come from. It doesn't matter. We are all humans. We are all connected. We are all children of light and love. And in this dark moment that we have right now, let us take faith that this candle is still lit, that hope for the future is still there. We have this idea, we have this movement, we have this motion that we need to grasp onto and push forward and allow to take over the society and with peace and love. Because we need to put on our armor right now. This is not a time to back down. This is the time to fight, Father. And we ask for the strength in all this. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Brother Matt, for holding us in prayer. Also lifting up some of the prayers here in the chat for the immigrants sent to third countries and kept in prisons, or sent to other countries, or kept in prisons or detention center in those countries. Betty's lifting up prayers for Curtis and Rachel, holding them close tonight. Thank you, Betty. And also prayers for Gaza. Aurelis passing along prayers for all the immigrants facing deportation in our world and in this country. Prayers for the families of those murdered by government in international waters. Thank you, Cynthia, for lifting that up. Also wanted to lift up the memory and legacy of Bishop Reginald Jackson, devoted and beloved bishop in the AME Church, who passed, I think, a couple weeks back, and was a very important leader to a lot of folks. And that prayer was brought to us by Sean Tucker Allen of New Disabled South. Great. So not a lot of time. Want to focus on a few key calls to action. Aside from signing up for Freedom Church, being in our community, getting the newsletter, wanted to lift up 4 key things that folks can engage in the coming days. So first of all, as we mentioned earlier, Lupe was talking about the Free Families program, and she shared a couple of pictures here of what it looks like to hold a Free Families gathering. This is outside of Alligator Alcatraz, and folks are gathering every week or every day or however you want to gather. The launch of Free Families officially starts on December 11th, and folks will gather online on that day, which is they'll connect stories from around the country of how communities are taking a stand against this violence and share new resources, including a really powerful, very comprehensive toolkit that has rituals, prayers, songs, more, just to help folks with ideas and to connect communities that are taking these actions. So I hope you will check this out and learn, join for the launch and check out the toolkit. And you may be already doing something like this and want to just have it fold into this Free Families framework so that you can be connected to others who are part of these struggles. But however you want to engage, we hope you will, so we can be more powerful together and be more powerful as community, where we're not just resisting, but we're caring and building our vision of the new world. So yeah, that's our important call to action tonight for the Free Families. Secondly, wanted to remind folks about the Preach Palestine, Advent of a Revolution and Birth of a Movement campaign that the Friends of Sabeel North America, another partner in for Freedom Church this season, is leading. If you want any of the resources or to be part of that effort to get folks in communities, faith communities, any community to preaching about the horrors and genocide happening in Palestine. So please check those out and take action in that way. And finally, the deadline is today, but I think we'll let you slide in if you have a young person who is interested in being part of a community of organizers, is looking for an experience that will connect you to other activists and organizers, and hungry to get involved for the long haul. We're want you to invite you to apply for the Young Organizer Survival Corps, which will kick off in January with a 5-day intensive boot camp organizing school. So if you know someone or you are that someone, please do that soon, because I think we're kind of getting to the deadline. And then finally, as Tammy was mentioning, the National Union of the Homeless is leading its People's Hearing on December 10th. So I hope you can join online for that and witness and be part of some of the powerful testimony and organizing there, as well as the upcoming Longest Night Memorial and Vigil on December 21st. So this is another opportunity to be a part of a vigil or to create your own, but to take action in this time of Advent and resist those monsters around us. So that is what I got. I think we're going to close in song, right, Minister Sierra? Okay, so we have a great song here, so stick around to leave with some spirit. This is a song that was put together by Steph Reed and Sharon Rebar. Nice remix of a holiday classic. So we'll leave you with
My voice feels small and weak, but now my heart must speak. We are a global choir. We call for ceasefire. We will not stand for this. This is our cry for peace. Then we will flood the streets. This is our cry for peace. From streets in Ferguson, to roads in the West Bank, We will not let them win. We will not let them win. We must free Gaza now. Free Gaza now. We must free Gaza now. Free Gaza now. We must free Gaza now. Free Gaza now. We must 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 free Gaza now. Free Gaza now. We must free Gaza now. Free Gaza now. We must free Gaza now. We must free Gaza now. We must free Gaza now. Free Gaza now. We must free Gaza now. Gaza now. We must free Gaza now. We must free Gaza now.
All right, hitting that note, that key of resistance. Thank you, Steph and Sharon. And thank you all. It's beautiful to be together. Much love to you. Take care of each other, of yourselves. We'll see you soon. Much love.